everybody. This is Noelle from Petitti Garden Centers, and we're here at our Oakwood Village location, and we are going to do an apple spotlight today. So if you're ready to grow some apple trees at home, we've got all the information for you to be successful. And to start out, apples are called Malus domestica. And what's interesting about that is that the Greek word for malus means melon or fruit, so that works out. But in Latin, malus means bad or evil, and so that kind of goes back to like the forbidden fruit. I think that's where it ties in to the Latin meaning. But also know this, that apples have malic acid in them as well. So scientifically, it works out. So Malus domestica, that's kind of a fun little fact there. There are somewhere around 7,500 different types of cultivated apple varieties, believe it or not. So we know what we grow in the U.S., what we're successful with, but there are all different types all over the world. And like tomatoes, you know how we have, new hybrids and all these different types of tomatoes. And then we also have heirloom tomatoes, so those old-fashioned varieties. It's the same thing with apples. There are many, many older heirloom varieties. There are many newer varieties with lots of different disease resistance, those types of things bred into them. So anyway, we'll talk to you about those types of things too. One other thing that I wanted to mention, that apples are actually native to Central Asia, Afghanistan, Kazakhstan. So they do come from that part of the world. And then, of course, over the years, centuries, I should say, they slowly but surely came into the United States. And so now we have a lot of different varieties that we see at the grocery store that we can grow at home and all those types of things. So that's cool too. When you're looking at an apple tree, normally it is a rounded shape, small to medium-sized tree. They do produce kind of ovate or oval type foliage. It's usually a medium to dark, dull green. Some of them are fuzzy or tomentosious on the bottom. Some of them have very, very pronounced veins, so it just kind of depends. And on the edge of the leaf, there's always these serrated margins or little teeth right on the edge. Okay, so typical apple leaf there. That's kind of a dull, medium green, a little bit fuzzy on the undersides, okay? Flowering-wise, again, flowers on apples, on your fruiting type apples, are going to be a pink bud. So kind of a white bud with a pinkish blush to it. And then when the flowers open, they will open to, some of these have lost their petals. This is a perfect one though, 5-petaled flower. Okay. So that's real indicative of your fruiting apple trees. Okay. The other thing that I meant to mention was that with apple trees, predominantly, I would say there are very few that aren't grafted, okay? So your fruiting apples, over years and years and years, hundreds of years, we've been grafting apples so you have a vigorous growing rootstock, okay? And then the desirable apple or scion is grafted on top of that rootstock, okay? You have 3 different types of rootstock typically. You have a dwarf rootstock, okay? A semi-dwarf rootstock, and a standard rootstock, okay? The difference between those has to do with ultimately your outcome, your future outcome with the apples. So if you want the smallest type of apple tree, you're gonna look for dwarf types, okay? They usually grow about 8 to 10 foot tall, very easy to grow in smaller spaces and containers and things. That works out great. Semi-dwarf is somewhere between the 12 to 15 foot mark. And then your standard is a little bit closer to like 15 to 25 foot plus, okay? So you have those 3 different rootstocks that those trees or scion varieties grow on. And it just makes them stronger. It makes them a better growing tree, a little bit more vigorous with your rootstock. The smaller rootstocks, the dwarfs and the semi-dwarfs, they usually are able to flower within 2 to 4 years. Standard rootstock is somewhere between 3 to 5 years when they come in. I shouldn't say flower, fruit, I meant to say. So they can come in and they can fruit within 3 to 5 years, okay? So that helps kind of speed up that fruit production as well. So it's a good reason to have your apples grafted. I wanted to show you really quick, and I'll have Taylor kind of do a close-up here, but this is the graft down below, and it's kind of this knobby part on the tree, and you can see the scion, the desirable fruit, is up this way, and of course your rootstock is down below. Funny enough, if Taylor shows you this part, this is a sucker. This is a very common growth, especially coming out of rootstock on apples, cherries, plums, all of those guys. And what happens is it's because they're grafted, and so that rootstock sometimes gets active, especially when the graft is really close to the soil, okay? So what happens is those tiny roots start to really push out, and that rootstock wants to grow on its own. And so what you do is you remove that sucker, and we'll talk about this when we get to pruning, and I'll remove it. But you want to remove those suckering growths because they are pulling energy away from the main tree that you're wanting to grow, okay? So you always want to stay on top of that. So let's talk about apples are in the rose family. So like the rose family, they love full sun conditions, okay? We're talking 6 or more hours of sunlight. If you have 8+ hours of sunlight, that's great too. The more sun, the better development you're going to get with your flowers, your fruit, and so on, okay? That's really, really good. We like to grow them in eastern exposure, western and southern, but the reason I say eastern exposure is because if you can get sunlight and get the dew to dry off of the foliage in the morning with eastern exposure, that's really good because that prevents some of the types of leaf spots and diseases that we see on the trees. So think about that when you're figuring out where you want to plant your apples. Eastern exposure is really nice. And again, they're getting a lot of sun early in the morning. And then as the sun's setting in the west, maybe they're shaded by a structure, the house, what have you, some larger trees. And that's actually very good for them, okay? So that works out really nice. So full sun conditions for sure. Soil, well-drained soil, slightly acidic, so just below 7.0 on the pH scale. So right around 6.5 is really, really good. And usually we can add that type of, small amounts of acidity with things like peat moss, those types of organic matters that we can mix into the soil just to make it slightly more acidic, okay? Just a little bit. And you'll know this by doing a soil test before you plant. See where your pH is in your soil. Do that every few years around your fruiting trees to see where that soil pH is. And like I said, just slight acidity at 6.5 is great. They can tolerate a little bit more, but that's what most of them are looking for. Okay, well-drained soil, I did mention. So again, we have very clay soil in this area. So if more organic matter you put into that soil when you're planting, the better that you're going to see that drainage. So we always talk about a 50-50 mix. Dig the hole about twice as wide as the pot. Go ahead, put that soil on the side of the hole. Then go ahead and take your organic matter. It could be compost, planting mix, like I said, peat moss, what have you. Go ahead and mix a 50-50 mixture with that soil. And then go ahead when you're ready. Root system goes down into the hole. It is only as deep as the root system in the pot here. Go ahead and make sure that those roots are moving out into the soil. And then make sure that your graft, okay, they also call it a bud union, just so you know, that graft is about 2 inches above your actual soil level, maybe 3 even if you just want to be sure. And that helps us in the long run when we have clay soil. We've kind of raised the root system up a little bit out of that hole. And then we go ahead and we backfill, okay? I forgot to mention biotone. Yes, we love to put biotone in the planting hole before you put the plant in, of course. That helps the roots develop very, very quickly. So add your biotone, then backfill with your soil. The last thing that I want to mention as far as planting is the mulch part of this. The apple trees really like to have that moisture in their soil, keep those roots cool, and that's always a really good thing. So 2 inches of mulch when you are finished. And I also should mention that you don't want to just plant an apple tree out in the middle of the yard where there's lawn around it. You want to make sure that you clear out at least a foot all the way around where you're planting that tree, so you don't have the lawn or any weeds coming in and getting really close to the rootstock. You want to keep that area clear. The reason being is lawn and weeds obviously can provide some competition there too. The other thing is we don't want to damage the apple tree with our lawnmower. Again, because your bud union or graft is lower in the ground and you're buzzing around and mowing with the lawnmower, and we don't want to hurt that bud union, lose the apple tree, all those types of things, okay? So do keep that in mind, a nice, foot or more away from the base of the apple tree. Okay, very good. Next thing is watering, and boy, apple trees do need not a lot of water, but they need a good amount of water to develop their fruit. Nice juicy fruit needs water at the root system, right? So again, when it is planted, and I always suggest before planting really any of your plant material, go ahead and water it well, right? So the roots are fully hydrated. When you do plant, backfill, mulch, go ahead and water well again. And we're talking about 1 inch of water 1 time per week, slow, deep watering. I say it all the time. I sound like a broken record, I know. But it really does help those plants establish their roots and get those roots to start growing deeper into the soil. Hopefully that deeper root establishment is going to help you in the long run so that these plants don't dry out when we have drier summers and days and events like that, okay? So do be aware of that. The Ohio State University, they recommend 2 gallons of water before you plant the tree. And then after you plant it, 2 to 3 gallons of water on top of that. So again, keep your apple trees hydrated, not overwatered, not sitting in water. But again, you want to make sure if we don't have any rain, then really make sure that you supplement that water, okay? Really, really important. Fertilizer-wise, they're like a deciduous plant. Don't get me wrong, the apples do need nutrients to develop good fruit. But again, we would typically just recommend plant tone and iron tone. You can use that, apply that once in the spring. If you're going to do one feeding, do the spring feeding, okay? And then we'll do a midsummer feeding too. So like most of our deciduous trees and shrubs, plant tone, iron tone, twice a season, spring, and then once again, midsummer, great. No problem whatsoever. They do awesome, okay? Let's talk about maintenance really quickly. Well, it's not going to be a quick one because your apple trees and really any of your fruiting trees and shrubs are going to need some maintenance. They are not low maintenance plants. They'll grow and they'll do whatever nature has them do. But if you don't stay on top of the pruning and then also trying to reduce the pests around those trees, you might have some issues, some overgrown trees, and they won't develop fruit very well for you, okay? So the first thing is pruning. And as far as maintenance is concerned, and I'm going to grab my pruners really quick, and we are going to start from the bottom up and kind of move through the apple tree, okay? And the first thing that I mentioned before is suckering growth. Now, the best time to prune an apple is when it's dormant. So it's late winter, early spring, and that's great. And we want to try to get all the pruning done before it goes into active growth, before you see that new growth push out, okay? But things like suckers, water sprouts, those types of things that happen, no problem. You remove those anytime. And anytime you see the 3 Ds as well. So disease, dead, damage, those come off the plant, okay? Very, very quickly as soon as you see it. So no worries. So sharp, sanitized pruning tools. As your trees get more mature and the branches get larger, you're going to need to get some bigger pruning tools, okay? So you can start with pruning shears when they're younger, and then you'll start to move into loppers, pruning saws, those types of things to maintain the pruning that they need, okay? So just start at the base. Again, I'm going to remove this sucker, okay? So the suckering growth is right at the base. It's coming out of the rootstock. You can tell it's below where the graft or the bud union is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold it, and I'm holding it a little bit awkwardly because I'm trying to let Taylor see it. But I'm going to try to get as close to the roots as I possibly can and just clip those suckers off. There were actually 2 right there, okay? And I just clipped them both off, again, going as low as possible into the soil here. Sometimes you will see suckers that will be on the sides of the trunk. Again, you want to remove those as best you can, and the trunk here is really, really clear and clean. You want to remove those because, again, any little growth that is growing out of the trunk, again, is trying to pull energy towards it to flower and produce. And so it is pulling away from the main trunk. So just be aware of that, okay? I did have a broken branch somewhere. I can't remember which. We'll prune it off. I'm not sure where it went right now. So, and there's like little crossing branches, weak branches and so forth, guys. Go ahead and take these out as flush to the trunk as possible. No problem. We're doing it right now here in spring, but again, it's good to remove all of those types of weak, thin, crossing, rubbing branches, okay? So look through the plant material. We're doing this a little bit late because it's a lot easier when the leaves aren't flushed out, okay? So just be aware of that. That sort of late winter pruning is great because you can see the whole structure of the tree. Now, there are no water sprouts on this tree right now, but a water sprout would be a true upright vertical growth. It would look like a very skinny little branch that was growing straight up and doesn't have a lot of leaf growth on it or nodes, and you would remove that too. Taylor, if you see one, let me know. But most of these are pretty young, so they really don't have a lot of that type of thin, weak growth. They're just doing their thing right now, okay? Now, with pruning, again, with apple trees, you really want to develop a very healthy structure. So the apple trees can be pruned 2 different ways. The one way is to keep a central leader. So that's your middle branch. So this one's kind of showing the middle branch here. There was a leader here, but they pruned it off before it came into the garden center. And now this branch is starting to take off as the central leader, okay? Then the branches around the central leader need to be at a 45 or lower angle, okay? So it sounds really, really strange, and these look pretty good. These branches actually look really nice, except for this one. This one's kind of, it has a very narrow crotch to it, so it's less than 45 degrees in here. You see how tight that is? And when this apple starts to produce fruit and it gets heavy, if you have a branch that has a very narrow angle to it, that heavy branch can eventually fall or drop and then crack, okay? So you do either want to train your branches while your apple trees are young to come down and have nice strong angles, so 45 to 90 degrees, which these two branches are really, really fine. This one's pretty good too, but this one is something that I don't think I would keep. So I would go ahead and I would remove that branch, okay? And again, because this branch is young and thin, I can go in here with my pruners, cut as close to the trunk as possible. Right back, this is called a shoulder right here. So I want to get it as flush as I possibly can. And I'm just gonna prune a little bit and take that branch off. Now, what I have, these are a little bit close, but that's okay. I'm gonna try to develop these. And honestly, folks, if your branches are real tight and upright, what you need to do is you actually will train them. You will put a string around them and then try to pull those branches down and stake the string lower just below. And it doesn't take a lot of effort, to get these branches because they're very flexible. And what you would do is you would actually stake them below, pull down on them a little bit so you have nice scaffolding branches, okay? That's the way to kind of keep that central leader. Every year, you would want to make sure that you were cutting back your fruiting branches. Just by a third, you were going to take some heavy weight off the ends so you can promote branching. So you would do that again, that late winter, early spring pruning. Just clip a third off of the branches at the tips so they would branch out for you. The other thing that you need to keep in mind is when you look at the tree, you want it to kind of look like a teardrop, if you will. So it'll be longer and rounded at the bottom and then more pointed at the top with the central leader. So you don't want the top scaffolding branches to shade out the lower scaffold branches. These won't develop fruit very well if they get shaded from up above. So the top should be a little bit more narrow and shorter. So I'd probably ultimately start clipping these branches as well. So I'm going to do that. And this branch, I don't know, I've got about 2 foot here. So I'm going to come down and I'm going to clip right by, an outward facing bud. Okay. So this is an outward facing bud right there. So I'm going to clip just above it. I'll turn this. Does that help, Taylor? So I'm clipping right above it, 45-degree angle, taking the tip off, and then I have my outward facing bud there, okay? So I'm going to do that to this other one because this, again, is a tall branch, about 2 foot or so, outward facing bud, and I'm going to clip right above it at a 45-degree angle, okay? So we'll make those top branches a little bit smaller. They won't shade the lower branches. That's a really good way to do it. Another thing, another way that you can prune your apple trees, and we talk about this a lot with fruit trees, pears and peaches and things, is you can also have what we call like a goblet shape or an open center. So I always show people with my fingers. So you actually try to structure 5 strong branches like that. And then you take out the center of the tree. So now you have 5 strong branches growing up and producing fruit, and the sun can come and penetrate right into the middle. You get good air exchange, which is always really good to reduce disease as well. So that's one way to do it. Right now, most of these trees, they have a central leader for the most part. But again, you want to get them home, get them planted, get them installed, and then kind of look at that overall shape and see where your real strong scaffolding branches are and just take out all of the other little stuff that won't help you grow. The last thing that you have to remember about apples is that they produce what we call spur growth. Well, most apples grow apples on spurs. So they're like little nubby branches. And right now, these are so young that they're really not showing their spurs. But where you do see some good node growth, there's kind of like a woody little mini trunk, if you will, okay? And that's a spur. And so the apples usually grow out of the spurs. And what you want to do is you want to reduce your apples on your branches about 1 apple fruit per 6 inches, okay? So I know, same thing, it's very, very hard to reduce your fruiting crop because you think, I want all the apples that I can possibly get. But you want to watch out for that, because if you overload a branch with too many apples, again, you can get some cracking and some damage to that plant. But ultimately, if you thin out your fruit to 1 every 6 inches, it's going to produce such a nicer fruit crop for you. Those fruit are going to really develop and become very nice, full-size fruit. And if you keep them all packed in there together, the fruit might get, spotted and bruised, and they'll be much smaller in size, okay? So ultimately, you're going to want to thin out those little fruit when they're young. And sometimes we have what they call a June drop with apples, where you'll just lose some of the fruit. You'll see some of the immature fruit just kind of drop off the tree. It's actually a natural sign that the tree is trying to kind of spread its fruit production out. But you want to go back through after that June drop and try again to get about 1 every 6 inches. That's really, really healthy for the tree. I think that's it about pruning. I know there's a lot there. I might have missed a few things, so it never hurts to go ahead and refer to the Ohio State's apple tree growing guide. They have one available online. Many universities do have one online, and it will help with looking at scaffolding branches, cutting and pruning where you need to really get good fruit development. So do be aware of that. Another high maintenance thing that we have to worry about with apples, unfortunately, is that they do get different types of pests, especially diseases. So we get everything from rust to apple scab to leaf spots to powdery mildew, lots of different issues, including insect issues as well. So we'll get things from, aphids and mealybug and lots of different issues. So again, it's good to start a spray regimen. And so we do talk about starting to spray your fruit trees. Typically in March is when you're looking for a nice mild day where the evening temperatures are above freezing, it's dry, and you can go ahead and spray the fruit trees. We commonly talk about Captain Jack's orchard spray because it's a nice natural organic product that has some copper in it, some pyrethrins in it. And so it works as both a fungicide and an insecticide, and it helps really reduce insect issues. If you start early, you can kind of prevent those diseases and insects from penetrating the tree. So that's something that we have. We also have that available online, spray schedule. So you go from before the tree starts to flush new green growth out, bud swell, you spray again just when the buds are expanding. You don't spray when the actual tree is flowering like now. The reason being is we don't want to bother any type of pollinator that's around the tree. And then after the petals drop, okay, is when you can go back and you can resume your spraying schedule, okay? We have all that information online, fruit tree spray schedule, so do look for that as well. And like I said, with the Captain Jack's product, it's a very, very easy routine that you can get into, but if you prevent and you do a preventative spray and maintenance, you'll really see a difference in how your trees grow, okay? What should I say? Anything else about maintenance? Oh yeah, of course. The larger pests that we might have, things like deer, for example, in our area, and birds as well, like to get into the fruit. I saw them around the apple trees this morning, and they'll pick petals and that type of thing as well. So to keep those larger animals out of your apple production, go ahead and use some netting. So bird netting is a very common product that we'll use. And of course, with the smaller trees, the dwarfs, the semi-dwarfs, it's easier to net. Standard trees are going to be a little bit harder to net, but as long as you can get some help out there and go ahead and put your netting around, and of course you would cover the entire tree. You could tie it very loosely at the trunk, and then you have your fruit and all protected. So that's something that works really, really well. Pollination. I should say with apple trees, they are not self-fruiting, okay? So, and this is a big key because I think a lot of people are like, I'm going to grow an apple. It'll be great. It's beautiful, beautiful, blooming, fragrant flowers. It's going to be great, and it's going to produce fruit. The only bad thing is they are not fruitful, and they're not self-compatible. So you can't grow two, let's say, Red Delicious in the yard and expect to get good fruiting from that. That's just not going to happen, okay? So your apple trees usually need a pollinizer. They need a compatible variety that's usually blooming around the same time that they are. So for example, I pulled out a lot of different varieties here, but I have everything from Fuji to Gala, and you can tell they're blooming. Sorry, Fuji's over here, Gala's here, but you can tell that they're blooming at the same time. Ting, ting, that works really, really well, okay? I have a Golden Delicious, or some people call it Yellow Delicious. Just so you know, Golden Delicious is usually one of the few varieties that can self-fruit, but it fruits so much better when it does have a companion pollinizer tree, okay? So do keep that in mind, and Golden Delicious will produce a lot of fruit, folks. So if you like Golden Delicious, that's great. But again, this plant needs a lot of pruning, maintenance in order to really hold onto the fruit because it's a very, very heavy producer, okay? So keep that in mind. So you want those apples that are fruiting at the same time, about the same time, to go ahead and pollinate each other. For example, Fuji apple is not a great pollinizer with Red Delicious, okay? You can tell Red Delicious is not blooming at the same time Fuji is. So that's not really a good compatibility partner right there. So there's lots of charts online. Just look at apple pollinators or pollinizers, and you will see that there are many, many charts out there that'll show you exactly which apples can grow together and do well together. I'm going to tell you Golden Delicious happens to work for a lot of different varieties. Granny Smith works for a lot of different varieties. So just be aware of those types of things. But 2 apples or more different cultivars or varieties always really produce heavier crops for you in the long run. Okay, so that's something that's really important. Oh, and you can use crab apples too. So you have a crab apple in the yard, a flowering crab apple, and it's flowering the same time as your apple. That actually can be a good pollinizer as well. So that's kind of fun to remember. Okay, let's talk a little bit about varieties, and I'm not going to keep you too long because you all know these varieties are very, very familiar. I do want to tell you that, again, look for some newer varieties out there too, because sometimes they have, enhanced disease resistance, which is always nice as well. But I'm going to start over here with the Fuji. We do have Fuji here. We grow Fuji apples a lot. Fujis are from Japan. You'd probably realize from the name. And they are actually a cross with a Red Delicious apple. Okay, so a Red Delicious is one of the Fuji parents. It is a very, very popular apple, kind of a greenish red, very juicy, very sweet. Love the Fuji apples. So just be aware, it's a good one to grow. And we've probably been growing it in the United States. Oh gosh, I don't even know how long. I mean, honestly, it's been around for quite some time. Okay, the next one is Gala. And boy, is it beautiful. It's blooming beautifully right now. It's really, really sweet smelling. And that, of course, is a great attribute with your apple trees. And you're, of course, going to have that sweet fragrance because that's going to attract pollinators for you. So do be aware of that. The Gala actually comes from, it's either New Zealand or Australia. And I'm kind of getting those confused. But the whole idea was that the Queen Elizabeth came and she visited New Zealand. I'm going to say New Zealand, okay? And Taylor will correct me. But she visited New Zealand, and it was her favorite apple, so they called it the Royal Gala. So there you go. You get the Gala name. So that one's a great, again, red, juicy, sweet, very, very good. I mentioned Golden Delicious, again, very heavy producer. So do be aware, lots of pruning maintenance with this one. I'm reiterating, of course, wonderful, just sweet, multi-purpose, yellow-skinned, very, very productive, okay? The Red Delicious is going to be the most popular planted apple, especially in the United States. I don't know about the rest of the world, but boy, is this one popular. Of course, shiny red skin, very firm apple, very sweet. So again, Red Delicious, no problem. Like I said, don't plant the Red Delicious with the Fuji. I know that those two are definitely incompatible, okay? Down here is Granny Smith. Again, Granny Smith, just leafing right now, is already flowered. And Granny Smith is going to be that real tart, wonderful apple for fresh eating if you like to, make that face, and then the sour tart face. And then, of course, baking with Granny Smith, delicious, absolutely great. So bright, shiny, sort of waxy green skin on that one. And then I forgot what's over here, Taylor. Oh, the Honeycrisp. So I forgot about Honeycrisp. Really coming on lately. Honeycrisp are very, very sweet apples. Again, reddish to yellowish skin, a little bit of pink in there, but again, in full bloom. So you can tell Honeycrisp, Golden Delicious, Gala, Fuji, no problem. They would all be very, very compatible as far as being able to pollinate each other, okay? I think that's apples in a nutshell. Sorry, folks, that was a lot of information. Taylor will correct me where I went wrong. But again, full sun always, well-drained soil, richly amended. Make sure you fertilize twice a season, plant tone, iron tone in spring, plant tone, iron tone midsummer. Pruning maintenance is no joke. You really do need to stay on top, and it's going to be a yearly thing. That late winter, early spring pruning, to get in there, remove a lot of those weak branches, crossing branches, all those types of things. You can cut back some of your bearing branches so they're stronger. Make sure when the plant is young to train those branches so they're very strong. They have more open angles to them so they can bear that fruit. You can prune them a couple different ways, but like I said, either a central leader with branches off the top, so that's more like a teardrop shape, or open goblet shape is fine. And again, just stay on top of the suckering growth, stay on top of any water sprouts that you might see, and you can really prune into the summer again, thin those fruit out, and just enjoy your apples.